As the tiny house movement continues to grow, people are getting more and more creative with the designs of their homes. Today we've traveled to Edmonton in Alberta to meet a firefighter who has really taken the design of his tiny house to the next level. Hey Steve.
Hey.
How's it going, mate?
Good, man. How are you?
Good, thank you. Pleasure to meet you.
You bet.
And awesome to see this great looking tiny house here.
Yeah, thanks.
It looks especially interesting being here in this very urban setting, doesn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
Can you tell me a little bit about how you actually came to be here in this spot?
I own this house, I own this property, and I guess originally I started seeing tiny houses on the internet and I thought, oh man, that's pretty cool. And before I started building, I picked a spot where I knew I wanted it to be, so I designed it to fit here exactly. So, yeah. Yeah, I actually like to say that this is an Earthship inspired tiny house. I just think it's such a smart design, the Earthship design, so I wanted to try and incorporate as many of those principles in this. And it was a couple years ago, I think it was 2014, I took a year off work. And I traveled for that whole year, and in that year I lived in a camper van that I ended up driving all the way down to Panama. And when I was traveling, I did a lot of volunteer on different tiny house builds, Earthship builds, different community building projects. And I really liked the vibe of that, of getting a whole bunch of people together, all working together for a common goal. And so I wanted to try and somehow incorporate that vibe into this build. And I worked with Ben Garrett out in Vancouver, who helped me organize a weekend workshop where a bunch of people came, and we had about 20 people working on this project over a 4-day weekend. And I really wanted to get that energy into this house.
And so what's the relationship between the house and the tiny house? Why did you decide to move out of your home and into a tiny house?
For me, it was how the economics of it makes sense to me. So I rent the big house out and the tenants pay the mortgage. So by me staying in the small house in the backyard, I'm living a mortgage-free lifestyle right now immediately while I'm still collecting equity in that house. So that makes sense to me, and that's a good situation to be in.
So how large is this tiny house actually?
So the footprint of it is 10 by 17, and my interior square footage is 140 square feet. So it's a pretty small, tiny house, but I think it feels bigger than it is.
And when you were designing this tiny house, what did you have in mind? What did you want to accomplish in this space?
I knew it had to fit here, so it could only be this big. And I wanted to make it as small as possible that I still felt comfortable in it. And I actually thought I was making it too small when I was designing it. Well, not too small, but I thought, this is as small as it could be, and I could still get everything that I need to be comfortable. But now, having lived here for a year, there's stuff in here I don't need, and I've found that I have more than enough room here. And for one person, for me, I'm completely comfortable in this space.
Are you connected to the grid here?
I wanted it to have options with it, so it's a bit of a hybrid where I'm set up to be off grid, but currently I'm taking all the services off the house that I pay for. So it's grid tied right now, but my idea is that in the future, I have like a nice little cabin that's transportable that I can move to some land that I haven't purchased yet and can be off grid.
Well, I'd love to have a look inside and see what you've done.
Sure, let's take a look.
Cool.
Come on in.
This is a seriously cool tiny house, man. Good job on the design in this one.
Thanks, yeah.
The floor is so unusual. Can you tell me about what you've done here?
Yeah, sure. So it's actually a 2-inch thick brick with a dark color, and the idea behind it was to get some thermal mass in the tiny house. So this brick is just like laid on the floor, interlocking like a puzzle, so it can come out if and when I want to move the tiny house. And the idea was that I could get some passive solar gain and some heat gain from this thermal mass. So it was a bit of a design principle that was an experiment that I wanted to try in this design.
And has it worked?
Some things work better in theory than in reality, and this is one of them. After being here I've been all 4 seasons in this full time, so 1 year, and going through a winter, it actually just was a cold floor and hard to keep clean. So I actually think I'm going to move that out and put some nice hardwood in, but it was an experiment that I tried and didn't quite work out.
Not everything does, but
yeah.
Awesome that you tried it, because it was actually a really good idea, and in theory I can totally see why you would have thought that would have worked.
Yeah.
Here in Edmonton it does get really cold, so heating is a huge priority in this house, right?
Yeah, definitely. Actually, I was super cozy in here, even minus 40, like in the coldest weather. So heating wasn't my main issue. I have 3 sources of heat here. I have a propane furnace heater, and I have an electric patio heater, and I also have a wood stove. So I have sort of 3 options, and with the 3, I'm pretty covered. So yeah.
Definitely nice to have all of those options.
Yeah, for sure.
So right now we are in your living room.
Yeah, this is my living room / bedroom. At the moment it's in living room mode, but this is my bed that acts like a couch when I'm not sleeping on it. The whole thing's on wheels, so it just slides out into this whole area, and when I'm not ready to sleep, I just put it in. It's like a couch, and you got more space.
And that really is a huge benefit as well, because this whole house does feel really spacious, having all of this head height here.
Yeah, I think it being like really tall like that helps make it feel bigger. Like almost everybody that steps in immediately says how it feels bigger than it actually is. And I think that a big part of that is not having the loft in it.
And it looks like you've got a lot of storage here. I see lots of baskets up there and some additional storage underneath the bed as well.
Yeah, so if you move the mattress, it's like a coffin and it opens up and there's storage under there. And I've also got a couple of baskets down here and a coffee table that pulls out like this. And then the whole bed just kind of rolls onto it. And the baskets, I decided to put them up high and out of the way. And when the bed is pulled out and I'm getting ready in the morning, I'm at like just the right height to kind of get in and out of them. And that's sort of my closet, really. What else do I have for kind of hidden storage? I have a little shoe space here. That's my, you know.
That's not a little shoe space. That's a lot of shoe space.
Yeah, I guess so. That was kind of an opportunity that just presented itself when I was building the place. Underneath the kitchen as well, I have water tank storage. So if and when I go off grid, I that's where that's hidden away, is underneath there. And I have some services under there as well.
Can we take a look in the kitchen?
Yeah, you bet. Let's pop up here.
It's actually a real luxury to be able to dedicate so much of the kitchen storage space to the plants, isn't it?
Yeah, the idea was that I would grow herbs and things that I would use in the kitchen, but in reality, due to lack of watering and my lack of a green thumb, it all kind of died. So yeah, I still just have green stuff there because I like the look and feel of green stuff in the house.
It definitely brings life into the space.
Yeah, that's what I think. Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
And so what about the kitchen? What do you have in here?
Pretty basic stuff. I cook off propane, and that's here. I do actually have like a microwave and a toaster oven, and they're plugged in right there through the floor, and they have their own power in the back. This is my little mini fridge, just a bar-sized fridge, but for one guy and being small, it keeps me clean and organized, and I actually prefer a smaller fridge. Like the bigger fridges, they end up just being full of expired condiments, you know. So this keeps me honest. I like it.
And then you've got a larger storage space, which is here behind the shallow storage.
Yeah, so I have a small closet here and some shelves and stuff. So I have some files and a few hanging up shirts that I keep here.
Uniforms from work as well, very important.
Yeah, got to keep those pressed and clean, right?
So you're a firefighter, aren't you?
I am. Yeah, that's my main gig. Yeah.
Was there any relationship between your job and why you decided to live in a tiny house?
A little bit, yeah. I've traveled my whole life, and I've always lived out of a backpack and enjoyed going places and doing that kind of thing. Then I got this awesome job that happened to be here in the city of Edmonton, and it kind of rooted me here a bit, right? But I wanted to keep that minimalistic lifestyle going. So I needed to find some way to make the two things work together. And when I thought of a tiny house, that made it fit for me, right? Because I have to spend so much time in the city here for my work, but I also get a lot of time off and I can still travel. And now I have the finances and I'm able to do it, but I needed it to work in this location. So that's how those two things kind of fit together.
This is actually a really cool opportunity for me to ask. When you are designing a tiny house from the perspective of a firefighter, is there anything that you've done in this home to make your home more safe?
Yeah, so that obviously is a concern, and I think some people are building tiny houses and don't have a good understanding of fire safety. So this has been built to the spec of a regular home building code, and I have egress windows all over the place. I have a fire extinguisher. And I also have a smoke detector and a CO2 detector, and make sure that they're in there. So I'm covered on all the same things that there would be in a normal size house, just on a smaller one.
And then behind you here is the bathroom.
Yeah.
That is a very unusual looking toilet.
Yeah, so that's actually, it's called an Incinelet. It's an incinerating toilet. So it basically burns your poop. It works like a self-cleaning oven. You go into a small filter, it drops into a chamber, power vents it to the outside, and just takes care of it that way. And it's clean, it's quiet, it doesn't stink, it works pretty good.
And what was your thinking behind choosing that particular unit?
Yeah, a lot of tiny houses choose to go with a composting toilet, which is actually a lot cheaper. That was a pretty expensive unit. And I just found with less open-minded people, there's a bit of a stigma with using composting toilets. So it wasn't even so much about me, but I'm already living in a shed in my backyard. I thought, okay, if I can have a good answer to how I'm managing my waste, that's going to do good for me, you know?
You just didn't want to get any weirder.
Yeah, exactly. I think I'm pushing the weird envelope as it is.
I totally get it. And then a great size shower there as well?
Yeah, it's like a full-size stand-up shower.
And are you heating your water here with propane?
Yeah, my water is on-demand propane heater. And actually, I found I had a different propane heater at first. I found it really finicky and it just didn't work that well. So I got a much more higher-end, expensive propane on-demand hot water heater, which was about 5 times the price, worth every penny. It works amazing. It is so much better and has made my life so much easier. So another sort of learning thing that I went through.
So you've been living in this space now for about a year. How's everything working out for you?
Yeah, it's been pretty good. Like I said, I mean, the financials of it has just been awesome. So.
And can I ask about the cost of this design? What did this space actually cost to build?
I made an arrangement to work with a professional builder where I would then be subcontracted back to work on this project. So I had a really heavy hand in it, but I had a lot of help. And the arrangement I made was for $30,000 was the arrangement I made. But then there was expenses on top of that. So I provided the trailer, the windows, the doors, and extra labor and finishing things when I came back to Edmonton. And all said and done, into it, I'm about 50 grand.
That's actually a really good price point for this level of finish in a home, isn't it?
Yeah, I think at that price point, it's kind of at the high end of what makes sense for me to get my money back from the rental of the house. So if I were to live in this for about 4 years or so, it's basically free for me.
Absolutely. Well, Steve, I think you've done a really good job with the design of this home. You've definitely added a lot of really clever features. Thank you so much for showing me this place.
Yeah, thanks for coming to take a look. Appreciate it.
This is a very cleverly designed tiny house filled with creative space-saving solutions. Like Steve, I'm also a really big fan of Earthship design, and part of Earthship design is innovation, not being afraid to try something different. Steve has attempted things in this tiny house that I have never seen tried before. Things like this stone floor for passive solar gain. And to that end, I have a huge amount of respect for what he's accomplished here.